Welcome back to another live and amplified Indie Fusion podcast. I'm your host, Tom Quat. We are back at it again with another amazing podcast. We have John McEuen joining us today. How's it going?
Doing really good.
Excited to have you here.
Thank you. I
I
told
do,
you. That's what my mother told me.
right? Right. That's great. I do have to admit one thing.
Yes, sir.
You are responsible for some of the best hangover drives I had in college.
Oh,
S-
not my
So,
not my responsibility. Whatever
no,
happened.
nope. It was a good thing. So, if I would
Okay.
turn on Fishing in the Dark,
It's a
I
good thing. It's my responsibility. Okay.
yeah, it helped me get over some really good hangovers. So turn on Fishing in the Dark going into town or something after a good night of drinking, and make the hangover go away.
Well, that's good to know.
So how's everything going with you?
Really, really well.
Awesome. So you're in Franklin, but
I
you're
mean, it
originally
couldn't be going any better. I've got a book, an album, a tour, dates that I'm doing. Uh, uh, it's stuff is happening. So
yeah,
I'm 78 years old and stuff is still happening.
nice. That's hey. I get you and my dad. My dad's about to turn 70 and he's still out there grinding away, working every day. So I think that's the key to longevity in this life, right?
Oh, 70. I remember when I was young.
Fair,
Yeah.
fair. So you're originally from Oakland. Who introduced you to music living out in Oakland? Was that something that was just kind of always around? Was that
Well,
kind of your family?
I was born in Oakland, but the first thing I learned to say was, "Get me out of here." And
Right.
I was in grade school. By the time grade school came around, we moved to Southern California, thankfully. And well, I made it to eighth grade in the Fremont area. And then Southern California is where I kind of grew up.
Yeah,
No, I grew. I don't know about up, but
fair,
anyway.
fair. And did your family introduce you to music, or was that something you found on your own?
You know, it's an interesting thing you say. My family. Well, my I've never thought of this, but yes, my brother. He's family, right?
Yeah,
He played blues guitar like you know, like well, you can see the guitar. I have a
yeah,
guitar.
yeah.
And I learned everything I could from him, like freight train. It was a while before I could go. Anyway, and when I was 17 is when I started doing that. And at 17 and a half, I realized that I didn't know anything that he didn't know. you know, and I heard a guy playing the banjo named Doug Dillard. The banjo wasn't named Doug Dillard, the guy was.
Yeah.
And, and he was playing with the Dillards, who are the Darlin family of the Andy Griffith Show.
Oh well.
And they were playing Southern California, where we had just moved recently. And boy, that drove me through the roof. And I had to become a bluegrass banjo player. But I was
Nice.
from Orange County, Orange County, California. That's growing up behind the orange curtain.
Nice. Hey, you know what though? Good music can come from anywhere though, right?
Yes, that's a good point. It's, often it comes from places that do not look like they're conducive to growing music.
Mhm.
But if they grow a lot of angst and a lot of depression, they can come up with some music to go along with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started playing 17, and it was fun. At 16, I'd gotten a job in Disneyland.
Nice.
At C. Martin and I were trying to get a job in the magic shop, and we landed it the same day and celebrated by I had a tuna sandwich in Tomorrowland, and
Nice.
that was great. 3 years. Halfway through that, music came along because 16 I wasn't playing yet. And 17, I was. 17 and a half, I started picking the banjo.
Yes.
And that's when I realized college was, yeah.
Fair. I completely understand. It's it's so funny though, because so I was introduced to bluegrass music right around the time we started doing the podcast. And I went to a bluegrass festival down in the Florida Keys. And I didn't, at that point, I didn't really know a whole lot about the festival or a whole lot about bluegrass or anything like that. And so everybody there was so warm and welcoming. They gave me a crash course of musicians and everybody to go check out. And let's just say by the time I came back that next year, I did my best to be as much of an expert as I could be. So,
Well, that sounds like a good way to start.
yeah, absolutely. So you worked at
Vassar
Disney.
Clements was from Florida, you know.
Who is?
Vassar Clements, the fiddle
Oh,
player on the Circle Be Unbroken album. Yeah,
nice.
one of the greatest fiddle players to ever live. Born in Kissimmee, Florida. You heard
Yeah.
of the Orange Blossom Special?
Yes.
The Orange Blossom Special ran from Florida to New York.
Oh, wow.
Written about a train from Florida.
Yeah.
And
Florida's really cool. I like it.
yeah, Allman
So,
Brothers.
yeah. Yep. It's I worked in, similar to you, I worked at Disney World for about a year and a half. I
How
didn't
old,
have
how old were you?
I was 20.
Oh,
Yeah. So it was a college internship thing that I did, and it was good times. A
yeah.
lot of fun. So then at what point did you end up making your move to Nashville? Was that not an immediate move or?
3.5 years ago, my wife said, "Why don't we try living in Nashville?" I went, "Okay." Before she finished her sentence, it was like, "Why don't we try living in Nashville?" And I said, "Yes." And so we moved to Nashville, and it was 3.5 years ago. I'd been
Gotcha.
coming to Nashville for 50 years,
Yeah.
and this is now I don't have to ask for late checkout.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd probably have lived here a year and a half of my life before I moved here. You know, coming for a week for a session or 2 weeks to work on an album or 3 days and 5 days and just staying here. You do that for 50 years
Yeah.
and it adds up.
Right. Yeah.
With the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, I was there for 50 years. Let me out. So I got out.
Fair.
I left.
I was going to ask if you regret not moving to Nashville sooner.
No,
No.
I lived in New York for 5 years before that. Well, actually, Florida for 5 years before that. New York for 5 years before that. And then LA for 10 and Utah for 12. And, you know, it was okay. It was
Yeah.
fine.
I was going to say, I guess when you're a globally touring musician, it doesn't really matter where you live as long as you have a place to call home, right?
As long as I have an airport to call home, yes.
Yeah. Fair. I guess that's the better way to put it.
And it was fun living in New York. I made it from my house, my apartment in Manhattan, through security one day. That means leaving the building, getting in the cab, going to the airport, getting the ticket, going through security in 34 minutes from the house to being through security. I
Was
called
that
my wife and said, "Honey, I made it. I'm through security already." She goes, "What? You just left?" You know, it was like, but it was one of those non-traffic days.
yeah.
One of the 3 non-traffic days.
Yeah. You always hear in New York about all the bad traffic and how it takes forever to get anywhere. And it's like, yeah,
I forget it already.
yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. So uh, so kind of for the, I guess for the people that don't really know kind of your musical journey, obviously we've been talking about the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band here a little bit. What's kind of like a brief outline of your musical journey leading up to your new album that released a couple of months ago and all that stuff?
Well, I'm a guy that started playing bluegrass music early on, and then I got in a Nitty Gritty Dirt Band because we were just starting, 1966, August 12th,
Yeah.
and around noon, 1 o'clock actually, and did the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band for 50 years.
Mhm.
And within that format, I brought the band bluegrass and different types of bluegrass music and some country music and some instrumentals. And on the outside of the group, I would delve into bluegrass, 5 string banjo and guitar playing was mainly it. But with the band, I would also play fiddle and mandolin and lap guitar, the one
Yeah.
you
Yep.
play with the bar.
Yeah.
And it was a great place to have a guy like me to be able to exercise all of those things I could find sounds. Oh, I know what would sound good on this record. Oh, let me try to figure out something for this recording. That whatever song we were coming up with.
Mm.
And my musical journey was, well, the band was one thing, but I like to make more recordings. The band was slow recording.
Mhm.
I mean, when I had left the band for several years in the 90s and then got back in 2002 and played till 2017 or 18 with the band. In that 2002 to 2018, we only made 2 albums.
Oh, well.
2 albums.
Yeah.
Oh, I made 4 others, and I did 3 film scores, and I produced 8 concerts. But that's a different world,
Yeah.
and it's just you were talking about the musical journey. In that journey, I ran into Leon Russell in 1966, and he became a friend. And over the years, well, long story short, I'm at his house one night in Nashville. He goes, "Oh yeah, I didn't know you played. I didn't know you played guitar like that. I was playing something that was like." You know, and he says, "Keep doing that. I want to play." And he starts playing the keyboard along with me. Then he overdubs drums. Then he says, "Put a mandolin on there." And by the end of 4 hours going by, we'd written a song. Just me and Leon, it was like, that was a new realm to go into. And it was really exciting.
Yeah.
I wish it would come out somewhere. I ought to send you one.
Okay. I was going to say that's like the magic of Nashville, though. Like Nashville's known for always being able to turn out that music really quick.
Yeah, well, Leon was an expert. He was part of the Wrecking Crew,
Mhm.
LA Wrecking Crew. He played on records for about 5 years before he started becoming Leon Russell.
Mhm. Nice. Nice, nice. And so then that kind of is that's what 2017 you said that brings you up to 2017, 2018, something like that.
With the Dirt Man, yeah. But then
Yeah.
I made a couple albums. 2018, I made an album with a bunch of friends. David Bromberg, do you know that name?
Sounds familiar.
Well, he's a well-known guitar player, not well enough for your ears. John Carter Cash,
Yep.
Johnny and June's son. Steve Martin,
Yep.
the banjo-playing magician.
Yep.
Andy Gessling, who was from Railroad Earth, and Matt Kartsonis, and he spent a lot of time playing with me, and a couple other players. Kevin Twigg, a great drummer, and we made the album with one microphone.
Wow. So
One binaural microphone, and it's one of the best sounding records I've ever made. It's called Made in Brooklyn.
yeah,
And that was really cool. That was fun. Did it in 2 days, 14 songs.
nice. That's cool. I love the one mic recordings because they're just especially when you have musicians that one of those festivals I was telling you about down in Florida, we decided to there was a jam circle going on, so we set down a single mic to get a single mic recording. And once the musicians kind of realized what was going on, they started playing to the mic, and it's probably one of the best recordings we've ever done. And we didn't really do anything.
Uh-huh.
So it's all, I'm always about the one mic recording when it calls for it.
Mhm.
So, but so let's talk about the new album that you dropped earlier this year, which really amazing album. I like what you did with there's a lot of storytelling mixed in with the songwriting. The Newsman, a man of record, which is a cool name. It really fits the title. How long has this album kind of been in the works?
I've been thinking about this record for 10 years. I started recording it 5 years ago, except for one I started about 10 years ago. And they have different lives in the hard drive, you know. I
Yeah.
think I'll go back to that one. I haven't touched that for 6 months. And I would go back and work on something on a song. A couple of them I did fairly quickly, like Old Rivers. I did that last November, here in my studio. I'm gonna do that piece, Old Rivers, and I just knocked it out in 4 hours, and that was really fun. It was a good example of how I just thought, if I can't do this in less than a day, then I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, because I think it should have just two guitars, a bass, and maybe a mandolin. Well, I've got two guitars, a bass, and a mandolin. So let's go.
Yeah.
I set it up. I did it. I did it a first take on the track, and then did the vocal. And the vocal was with the main track, and then did the overdubs and mixed it. It was done. And did that with Pineapple John. That was recorded at John Carter Cash's studio.
Yeah.
Out in the forest.
Nice.
Did that, and John Carter had said, "Why don't you pick out one of these to do something with?" And I took Pineapple John. And I said, "Let me put music to that." And so, anyway, that was really fun.
Nice.
That was it. That was like, yeah, PJ, Pineapple John, kept his house like it was like really fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to get across. It was just really fun to have the headphones on. The guitar sounds great. The mic's in place. Okay, we ready, Trey? That's the engineer.
Yeah.
And okay, here we go. One time. Well, I said one time 3 times, but because it was a squeak, and then I made a mistake and whatever.
Yeah.
I had to start over. And but that's really fun. I mean, that's the way the old guys did it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
the masters, they would go in and Sinatra would record a song in one take.
Yep.
They had the whole orchestra there. He's like, let me do that line over. You know, it wasn't like making records.
Mm-hmm.
With the Dirt Band, I actually had this. This is an actual thing. I won't say the name, but I say, "Hey, how you doing? What are you doing tomorrow?" "Well, I'm going to go back to LA for a day, and then I got to come back and do the bass part on that chorus over, and then the harmony part on that other song." And it's like, do the bass part over on it was like, it was irritating is what it
Oh yeah.
was.
Oh yeah.
Well,
There's something to be said to just let the song be what it's going to be. You know, just it doesn't have to be perfect because it's going to take on a life of its own. When you play it live or when you play it out at a show, it's not going to be exactly the way you play it on a album anyways. So
the album will be different than the live version for
yeah.
sure.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
there are
I did an album called String Wizards, and 8 of the 12 cuts for first take.
Wow.
And the players were really great. I mean,
Yeah.
this is Sam Bush and Stuart Duncan. I don't know if you know the names. Stuart Duncan, Sam Bush, Jerry Douglas, Roy Husky.
I'm familiar with some of them. Yeah. Yeah.
Just a second.
Oh, you're good. But to go off of just to kind of go off of the what you were saying about recording in one take, one of the very first recording sessions we ever did as like Live and Amplified as the platform that we run, we brought in a young musician from Montana and she wanted to record a 14 song album. We had 13 of the 14 songs cut in 2.5 hours, all of them first takes. The only one that we had to do a second take on was that 14th song because all of our power in the makeshift studio we had died on us in the middle of the recording. So we had to go back and recut that one.
That sounds good.
So, yeah. Were you going to say something a little bit ago? Sorry, I didn't.
This album, the Circle Being Broken album, that was like first take on about 22 of the songs.
Oh, well.
And 2 takes on maybe 10. And then a couple had many more, like Flint Hill Special, Earl Scruggs playing Flint Hill. He didn't get that till the 7th take. He got it every time, but the band did not gel until the 7th take. When he would pass it, he would say, "Ah, we got it. That's good." But that was unusual. But yeah. So
Hey. Fair. You can't always get it on the first try. I figure, right?
You mean you can't always get what you want? Gee, that's a good song.
So you also have a children's book. Is it out or is it getting ready to be released?
Well, it's a strange. I just put it out myself. It's on my website, and it's based on. It's the Mountain Whippoorwill. It's got to get the glare off of it. It's based on the poem that I did with the Dirt Band for many years. For 35 years, I did this poem with the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Does your podcast play the video too?
Yeah. Yes, it will.
Well, in that case, it's a book that has illustrations of the story of the Mountain Whippoorwill as I tell it on the album, on the Newsman. Things that are kind of cute stories. Do you know what the Magic Mushroom is? Magic Mushroom Restaurant?
I do not. No.
Oh, okay. Well, it's not in your town yet.
No.
Let me back up. A couple of artists called me with the idea of doing this illustrations of that poem. And I went, well, that sounds good. And we did it. Took a couple years to get it right, but they got it right. Steve Martin wrote the introduction for me because we used to do this together. And that was really nice introduction he wrote. And it's not my first book. I wrote another book called The Life I Picked. Oh, there it is now.
Nice.
It's the Life I've Picked. This is stories of me. Enough talk about me. Let's talk about my career. It's talking about my entire life.
Oh, nice.
Playing with a band, raising 6 kids, the whole thing. And you can get those. You can get both of them on Amazon, but you can get signed ones from my website, which is easy to find.
Awesome.
Pardon?
Awesome. I'll have to I know what exactly I got a niece that just turned 2 years old. So I think she's probably right in the right ballpark for one of those books.
Oh, not The Life I Picked.
No, that one will be for me.
Okay, yeah, that'd be good because it's got a couple of R chapters in it.
Fair.
And I'm only describing what I saw. Okay.
Fair.
And I'm glad I didn't see all of it, but
Eh,
no.
That's fair. I completely understand.
My
But
website's easy to find. My mom thought of my website name. It's John McEuen. Pretty good, Mom.
nice. The fact
MC,
that
pardon?
I was to say the fact that you could get that as your website, I think that's the real victory.
Yeah, it was. Just John McEuen, MCEUEN .net or .com. Will take you to the .net. And
Awesome.
I've got a bunch of things for sale there. The album, the Circle book, a book about Will the Circle Be Unbroken, and the Newsman album. And they're signed when you buy them from my website. Or
Awesome.
you can get them from Amazon. And they aren't signed. Nah, 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 nah.
Now, are they all do you press vinyl still or is it CDs or
Not on the Newsman.
okay.
CD, yeah, just CDs. Or you can get it from Spotify or uh, the other places,
Hmm.
iTunes stuff.
Nice. So for the I want to talk really quick about the Newsman because I really liked what you did there
Hey,
where you had like the storytelling and then you interwoven like music with it, kind of like how we're talking now, where you're kind of like demonstrating different things or like as far as musically goes. I really kind of like that layout for the CD. Is that was that something that you were trying specifically for this program or for this album, or had you done that prior in other bodies of work?
it's a combination of things. Some of them are just talking blues, like
Hmm.
like the Hank Williams one. Did you ever sit? It goes. Did you ever sit straight up in bed with
Hmm.
something circling around your head? It's what it is. The place is by. It's just a pesky little fly. You shake your head, twitch your nose, settle down to sweet repose. Then when you're just about to doze, fly trouble. No, that's just a Hank Williams Senior song from
Hmm.
1948, and you play the music along with it, and it's like a talking blues,
Hmm.
and talking blues like A Boy Named Sue was a talking record. Uh, King Tut was a talking record. King Steve Martin's King Tut.
Yep.
That, that was a dirt band that played the music for that on King Tut. Well, my brother was managing Steve, and he wanted to record King Tut, so we did it. And then some of the songs are like scoring a film,
Hmm.
like the cremation of Sam McGee. I tried to put the sounds in, the pick and sound right after the words. Or let's take Old Rivers.
Hmm.
You know, it'd be like, I never, okay. How long have I known Old Rivers? It seems like he was always around. That old fella did a heap of work, always walking plowed ground. You see, all the playing is in between, so you don't have. It's not. How long have I known Old Rivers? It seems like he was always around. It's not on top of it.
Hmm.
People work, always walking that plowed ground.
It's just kind of an essence in the background almost.
Well, it's supporting the mood, like on Cremation and Sam McGee. It's very the music's very prevalent, but it's in the spaces between the words.
Hmm.
And that's part of what I think is a great part about that art, the art of doing spoken word with music, is trying to get the words to go. Yeah, his name was PJ, Pineapple John. And putting it, it's strange. It's how do I go about it? The Nui Ba Den, the one about Vietnam.
Hmm.
Now that was an example where I had to find music that could possibly reflect this horrible battle in Vietnam that this guy had written about, and he wrote about it from as he was there. He was there. It is written by a Vietnam vet, his brother, and the vet. And I had this piece that I wrote for. I was trying to get the job scoring the movie We Were Soldiers Once and Young, and I came up with this piece for that, and it didn't get used. It didn't anyway. But I took it and I reworked it, little editing, little cutting here or there, and worked it into. We were just boys on the
Yeah.
flight to fly, expected to act like men. Bring in the helicopter, bring in the, it's like,
Yeah.
and using sound effects, not be afraid to use sound effects. Like on the newsman, the dog bark. That dog bark does magic things, I
Yep.
think.
Yeah.
Woo, woo, woo. You hear the dog bark, it takes you to, you can almost, maybe it's just me. I can almost see that scene.
Yeah. Well, so I studied or I went to school for film and I did film for about 10 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
one of the things that I was always taught in film school was, especially when you're building out a scene, like when you're trying to visualize what the scene is going to look like, the audio is the make it or break it point. Like
Uh,
when you think about like horror films, what scares people more is what they hear and don't see versus what they see and don't hear. And I had a teacher that kind of inadvertently took that theory and applied it to outside of horror films, whether it was comedy or whatever, to use it to really build depth within your scene, even though you may not hear, if you're like outside and you hear a dog barking, you don't necessarily have to see them. It just adds ambiance. It adds like all these different, it adds depth to everything. And so the fact that you're bringing that up as far as like just like an audio performance, it's one and the same. So
like on Sam McGee, the wind and the fire.
yep.
Boy, was that fun to put in there.
Oh yeah.
Too much fire, not enough fire. And for those that are listening, not knowing what I'm talking about, I mean actual fire sound. A recording of a
Yeah.
fire put in into the behind the story, behind the music, and the wind began to blow, and the wind. You start the wind before that line comes up, you know,
Yep.
and the wind began to blow. So it was already blowing,
Yeah.
and it's really fun. I treated that a lot of this as if I was scoring a film.
Nice. Nice. So were you doing like a lot of these sound effects? Were you doing it like as if it was like a Foley stage and like trying to recreate the sounds, or were you actually going and just like recording wind or like a fire cracking
I have a
or
sound, I have a sound effects library
okay, gotcha. That works too.
used for making movies.
Yeah. Hey, that works.
Uh,
But
85 discs with all kinds of things on it.
see,
Dog bark, roo, 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 roo. All
yeah.
these different dogs and stuff.
Hey,
And
when I first got my start, I had some. It wasn't 85 discs. I think it was maybe like 10 discs or so. But you know, those come in handy.
oh boy,
Yeah. So, so I don't want to keep you here too much longer. You'd mentioned you got some shows coming up. What's your schedule looking like?
it looks like I'm working.
Are you
I,
playing pretty much in Nashville, or are you still out
no,
actively?
I don't. I play here once a year. I'm playing Franklin Theater November 17th.
Hmm.
Uh, Bartlett, Tennessee on the 16th. The first end last week of October, first week of November, I'm in the Minneapolis area, Mankato, Minneapolis, and
Hmm.
some things up there, Duluth, and not much in October. I'm still recovering from. Did we talk about that
No,
event?
we didn't. That was actually going to be the next question I was going to ask was how you were doing
Well,
health
go ahead
wise.
with your next question.
Yeah, I was just going to ask how you're doing health wise because I had seen all the reports about what was it, triple bypass?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was a double bypass, and the doctor said, "No, you've had a triple
Oh
bypass."
boy.
And it's like, oh, can I put some sound effects to that? Like, oh.
But
And
you're doing well health wise now, or
apparently, either I'm fooling myself, or the doctor said I was doing really, really good. He said I was doing better than, well, one of his best patients, and he'd done 10,000 of these operations. But I'm 78. I've never done drugs, and I don't drink. And he said that must have really helped. I never talk about never doing drugs because I don't like to say, "Oh, listen to me," because I've never done drugs. But
Mhm,
it's just in relation to this question, it deserves to be answered,
mhm.
and I'm just very fortunate that that was a choice I made because I would have been gone if I'd been a stoner.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it. Of
All
course, on the other hand, uh, what is it going to be around? There'll be cockroaches and Keith Richards in another couple thousand years.
right.
The only one's
That-
going to be around.
that- I've heard that once or twice.
Yeah.
So, but then also to that being said, my grandma, she just turned 90 and she smokes a pack of cigarettes a day and drinks like a fish, and she's got like breathing problems. That's about it. So,
Oh, no, no surprise there.
right.
But
But
that's incredible.
yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's hard to tell. I'm not the jogger that runs 10 miles a day and dies at 45 out there jogging, like some of them do.
Hmm.
And George Burns smoked a cigar every day and was taking dates when he was 101. And you know, it's a funny world.
It is. It really is. But at least you have your health now and you've still got your sense of humor, which made this interview really fun. And I've enjoyed our conversation. You still got your music. And I say, as long as you can keep doing all three of those things, keep plugging along.
Okay.
Oh, and so what's your website if anybody wants to buy music, or Newsman wants to buy any of your books, any of the cool stuff?
I just ask people to go read the reviews.
Hmm.
Then you won't be able to help but order. No, but
Nice.
it's just go to John McEuen, MCEUEN.net, and that's where everything is. Where I'm working, where I'm what I've done, bios, pictures, cool photographs. If you like looking at old photos, old dirt band, old nitty gritty dirt band photos, stuff from '67 and '8 that, oh, I can't believe it. Looks like I was in the Beatles. It's just, ah, so I've been so lucky, so fortunate.
Hey,
Thank you, everybody out there listening and watching. If you've helped by buying one of my records or something, I appreciate it. I make them. I work for you. You know,
yeah,
I don't. I don't work for me. I don't pay me to make a recording, but um, I go make things and go play things, and they. I play for free. They pay me to get there.
yeah. It's that old saying for athletes, they get paid to practice, not to play. So
You ever heard the comparison? What's the difference between jazz and country music?
I don't know.
Country music is three chords played for thousands of people. Jazz is thousands of chords played for three people.
That's funny. I love
It's
it.
not always true, but it's anyway.
Fair enough. But John, thank you so much for joining us. I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's been an absolute blast. And hopefully hopefully you'll come down to Texas at some point and I'll be able to come
Texas,
in and
where you're at?
yes, I'm in Texas.
What part?
I live in Waco.
Waco, home of
Yeah.
Steve Martin.
Yes.
That you knew that.
Yes. I there there's a lot of things, and let's see, we're also, I guess, technically not the home of Willie Nelson. He grew up technically in Abbott, but tomato tomato at this point. So, but So yeah, hopefully if you make or can come down, or if you got a show down in Waco, I'll be able to, or in Texas in general. I'm not afraid to drive at this point in my life. So yeah,
Uh-huh.
awesome.
You ever
Uh,
heard that, you ever heard that story about the two guys that uncovered a time capsule buried like back in the 30s?
no, I
And
have not.
they opened it up, it's got sheet music in it. He goes, "Oh, look at this song. You say tomato, I say tomato." Yeah, sorry.
You're good.
You say tomato, I say tomato, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's funny. I love it. That's great.
Anyway.
Um, but really appreciate you. Really appreciate your time. And anytime you want to come back on, love to have you. And thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will catch y'all later.